Now we will look at therapy. When a child is born, it changes around between all energy patterns. I have 3 children, and after their birth I looked at them and saw a little tension here, afterwards tension there and there. I realized, tension here. I could see they have polarized themselves, especially in their faces, and then gathering themselves, having tension here, having tension there, etc. They changed around and got experiences during changing around between different energy patterns, and each of these energy patterns gives a structure in your consciousness, so you recognize different things changing around. Then in our culture, maybe all cultures, we have an upraising, and in the Western culture we have 2 energy patterns. We have the European energy pattern, also found at the Democrats in the United States, and the Republicans a little bit also in Europe. I will focus on the upraising in this energy pattern here. The child very soon realizes that the father and the mother has 2 different kinds of energy. The father identifies himself with the right side and this energy pattern here, and the mother identifies herself with this energy pattern here, so they behave differently. In the age of 0.5 to 1.5 years, there is a process where the child has to go through a split in its own consciousness. The parents all the time say, don't do that, you have to do so, etc., etc. And the child needs to somehow suppress all the energies, all the consciousnesses that the child has in its abdomen. After the split, the child of course knows that the abdomen is something of its body. But after the split, the child identifies itself in the head and the breast as something I am. I am reason, I am feeling. But the abdomen and the energies and consciousness in the abdomen is something the child recognizes a thing, something it has, not something that the child is. So this split is very elementary in Europe, and also found in Democrats in the United States. Later on, as an adult, you may get a conflict about this. We talk about a psychosis. If people identify themselves with reason and feelings here, they suddenly may come in contact with this energy here and change totally identity. So they suddenly recognize themselves with this energy here, having also feelings that this has been somehow been suppressed from the consciousness here. So partly getting in contact, you will come down to some kind of a closed room, feeling yourself trapped. Maybe you can have this problem about thinking yourself as a machine, distance yourself from machine, or loving the machine. There's a lot of different kinds of these kind of psychosis, all dealing with this split in consciousness. It is a European phenomenon, and also found in the United States with dealing with the Democrat people. We also have a similar problem found in the Southeast. not as a split, but as a kind of polarization. And in China, in other countries in the East, they have some kind of therapy where they massage the bottom of your abdomen, massage your genitals, etc., and somehow have your attention down in this area. Some years ago, I talked with a couple practicing sadomasochism, and the man had spanked his wife a lot, and then she suddenly got in contact with this and felt this like a liberation, being a more whole person. Myself, back in, I think it was in 72, I lived in the countryside in a little house in the forest, and one evening I had this feeling getting in contact with the inner animal in myself, and I got really afraid. Raised and went outside, stacking around, felt myself as an ape, and suddenly I had this thought that I had lost my humanity. I had become an animal and was afraid that I couldn't go back and again be a human. But very fast I realized that all my abilities as a human was in still worked, still functioned. The only change was that I now also was in contact with the animal in myself. And still today I have this feeling that I think of myself as an animal. Well, as a human being. But the European split, where you recognize yourself as a human and others as animals, this split I do not have any longer. As a therapist, many years ago, I had a client, a woman, with a severe undertension in her muscle here in the bottom of the abdomen. And it gave her the most severe problem in her mental life, in her social life. And I tried some of those therapy methods that I knew from the East. She lay down and have a lot of breathing, having a lot of air coming inside, very much more than she needed. And then I started to slap her a little bit in this almost dead muscle she had, hoping that it responded with a little bit of movement. But she stagnated, and I realized that she saw it as a kind of sexual harassment. So I stopped immediately, and I gave up and told her I couldn't help her. So in those years I was in real trouble about how to deal with these problems about people who had a problem being stagnated and being not in contact with their abdomen and the energies here. Today I think it could be quite more easy because now I would solve the same problem using this energy pattern. Then in the age of 3-4 years, the children in our culture go through a split in consciousness, so they end up with a right and a left side, identifying themselves on the one side and the other projected out on others. If a boy identifies himself with the right side and the energy pattern here, then he turns out to be heterosexual, and if he identifies himself with the left side, he turns out to be homosexual. And similar with a girl, if she, after this split, identifies herself with this side, then she will become a heterosexual woman, and if she identifies herself with this side, then she turns out to be homosexual. And this split and this homosexual problem started in Europe in the 1700s, where this split became a part of our culture, and ever since, in any generation, the parents have forced their children to go through this split. As adult, you feel an I, and you feel your lover projected outside your eye. In the 1970s and 80s, this wave of therapy throughout the Western world was very much about this problem to gather the two sides again. First of all, the therapy was about this projection ended, so you realized that what you felt about your lover was not in fact your lover, but it was a consciousness inside yourself. And in fact, it was yourself. So having this projection, coming back and realize, oh, it's not my lover, it is me. And then realize, oh, here I am. And oh, here I am. Two eyes. And then have them gathering to one united. It's the process of being able to polarize yourself and the ability to gather your two sides, having the same energy pattern in both sides, and then recognize it's as one gathered energy pattern having one eye. Most of the therapists in those years thought, I did too, that after having united the two sides, you would end up in this energy pattern here. And somehow we thought that this was the original consciousness. We thought that when you started your life as a child, this was the original energy pattern, and the suppression during childhood had caused that you ended up here, and now you should go back to the original consciousness, and it was here. And the idea was that these two sides somehow was on the surface, and beneath you have a self, and it was all about coming back to this self. We know today that it isn't like that. There is no self. All of these consciousnesses are on your surface. This is on your surface. It is electromagnetic field around your body. The same here, etc. There's nothing beneath that. But we thought that. And therefore, most of the therapy in those years failed, because it was all about gathering your two sides, integrate yourself in one gathered I, and then you are saved, was what we thought. But the people ending up here couldn't stay there. Very soon they changed to here, to there, to everything, and they started to polarize themselves, etc. And well, they did the natural thing, because if you relax and if you allow the energy to flow free, then you will change around between all energy patterns, sometimes having one eye, sometimes having two. It's the natural. But the idea was that you always should stay there. And therefore it failed, because you didn't have the consciousness, the understanding of what the goal in fact was. We aimed wrong. In mental hospitals today, or if you go to a shrink, an analyst, you also will find some kind of what they call therapy. But most of these kinds of therapies is a misuse of the word therapy. Because the word therapy is a very ancient word going back 2,000 years. And 2,000 years ago, people also realized that people have been stagnated in a split consciousness. And therapy was about gathering, integrating, and have a free energy and a free consciousness. But going to mental hospitals, sitting in a circle with other people, talk together, have talk therapy. It's not talk therapy, it's talk treatment. It is about learning people to stay here. Learn to realize that they, with their brain, should control their drives, with their brain they should control their emotions, etc. So it is some kind of second attempt to have them stagnated in this energy pattern. And it is not therapy.